Looks like we are good to go. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I know it's hard pulling away. I try to do it around lunchtime to give people an opportunity to kind of break away, do like a lunch and learn. But if this is your first time joining me today or meeting me, I'm Andrea Wilson. I am the broker here at Brick House Realty. We're here in Northeast Ohio. We're a full service real estate brokerage if you have not heard of us. Um, so we would love to connect with you and have a conversation, answer any questions that you may have along the way. Monthly, we do these trainings and we open up our trainings to all real estate agents. Doesn't matter what state you're in, what real estate brokerage you're with, just as a way to reach out, give back, and help you grow your business. Especially, we are preparing to get into 2021. Today, I have a guest who is going to give us lots of nuggets and tips today. So I have Donovan here. Donovan, could you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, so first I'd like to say thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. Um, and anybody else that's joining or tuning in, thank you for the time that you've, dedicated to this. My name's Donovan Boyd Sr. Um, I am from Cleveland, Ohio. I live in Houston, Texas. I'm an author, and then I'm a founder, CEO of my company, the Boyd Group Management, Marketing, and Branding LLC. We work with several different facets of business, from consulting and helping small businesses. I've worked with many entrepreneurs just from a consulting standpoint on marketing and branding, as well as book publishing. So I've published several different books of my own and helped some different authors get their books out to the world. I've traveled the country with both of my books. My latest book is called Clock Management. So that's kind of what we'll be speaking about today. Um, be a part of this. This is a world that I'm excited about getting into, and learning more and more each day. So I'm here to learn too. So it's hopefully it's something that here's and fields.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So we typically do this kind of like a question and answer type of style. So I'm just going to kind of jump into this. Just want to get your expertise as it relates to being a real estate agent. So the audience is primarily newer agents, some of them more established and seasoned agents. But the questions that I'm going to be asking today kind of relates to just real estate agents in general. So one of the things with working with agents, it's always about them feeling not having enough time in the day to get everything done. Um, and then prioritizing what activities that they should be working on. Um, so how important is time management for an entrepreneur? I guess I'll start there.
So I'll say that time management is important for everyone, right? Um, you always hear time is money, right? Time is money. But it's relevant to what it means to you, right? So from a time standpoint, you have to place your own value on your own time, right? So I can't tell you what your time is worth. You can't tell me, what my time is worth, right? So that's the first thing you have to understand or figure out what your time is worth. And prioritizing that time, you have to protect that time and you have to understand what that time is worth. And the biggest thing that I notice that what we do is, we really not understanding the value of our time, and we're really not prioritizing our time based on what is important or what we need to get accomplished, right? So we allow people to take advantage of our time, right? Because we don't really know what our time is worth and how valuable your time is. Once you understand how valuable your time is, then people can't be late to meetings for you. People can't be late for showings. They can't show up late. They can't reschedule. They might not get another appointment, but it has to be, you have to figure that out for yourself, right? Can I pick your brain? Can I sit down with you? No, I don't have time for that. You know what I'm saying? So once you figure out that time, I mean, once you figure out the value of your time, then you can prioritize it, and then now other people will understand the value of your time once you understand and once you've placed a value on it. For me, I think the biggest thing is um, I try to maximize my days, but I still have boundaries and limitations on my time, right? So I'm a firm believer of maximizing my 24 hours, and then I'm a firm believer of um, prioritizing my time. So in a day, I'm not doing that. And that's just me personally, but you have to set those boundaries, because if you don't set those boundaries, then nobody else will. Then people will call you at any time trying to get a meeting, so you have to you have to really prioritize and set those boundaries with your time.
Hmm. Do you think that people should, so when they're prioritizing their time, so if we're looking at a day, 8 hours in a day, should they be doing certain activities at certain parts of the day, at the beginning of the day, end of the day, middle of the day? Should they break it down to that level?
Yeah, I think it all has to do with what you have going on in your life, right? So you might have a young agent that don't have children, right? You have a young agent that don't have any response, like any huge responsibilities, and they're just trying to be an agent and they're trying to grind, grind, grind. Well, that person may have a larger window of doing things, right? So that person may can start work at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning and work till 8 o'clock at night, because they don't really have those responsibilities, right? But the ones that have children or have a spouse, right? So you have to really know what's going on. So like me and my wife, our calendars are synced. We have a daughter that has health challenges, so it is important that we know what's going on, right? So we have when the medication should be taken, set on our phones, doctor's appointments, when our children have basketball practices or football practices. So those things are important, right? Office hours. I'm doing work from this time to this time, right? Business is shut down at this time, right? So those things are important. So then once you have it, hey, I know that I'm working from 8 to 5, or I'm working from 8 to 6, then I'm getting my things accomplished from this time, right? And I'm mapping these things out hour by hour, minute by minute, half hour by half hour. And that's what you have to do. I'm not saying that you're not supposed to, put the time into your business, but whatever that time you're going to put and dedicate it, map it out. So then that and this is the time frame in which you're doing it in, and then you still have to allot that time frame for other things that you want to do. And that's important to me because I am a parent and I am a family person. So I can't neglect my family. I can't neglect that. So that's why that time management and the 24 hours effectively managing that 24 hours, right? You might have to get up early, right? When I wrote both of my books, I had to get up about 4 or 5 in the morning when nobody was up, when everybody was asleep, so I can dedicate that time so uninterrupted, so I can get the goals that I'm trying to get accomplished. I had to get those done during those hours.
So a lot of what I often see is real estate agents who are working like a 9 to 5 job. And either they're new to the business or even just being in the business, but they want to transition out of that typical 9 to 5 and become a full-time agent. And so a lot of times it's still, even with them, it's hard planning their schedule or working in that piece of it. Um, working in that piece of building in this other business that they want to start doing. Do you have any tips on someone that's trying to transition? It could be anything. This really applies to anything, working a nine
Yeah.
to five and and transitioning to like your side hustle become your main line of work.
Yeah, I mean, that's about sacrifice. So, you might have to sacrifice some sleep. So it's going to be long hours in the beginning. There's going to be some sleepless nights. It's going to be some, I can't go out this time. I can't hang out with the girls. I'm focusing on my business. So, like you hear people say all the time, like you'll give 8 hours to another company or 9 hours to another company, but what are you going to give to your own business or your own dreams or your own goals, right? So that's the decision that you have to make within yourself. How important is that goal? How important is this that you're trying to achieve, and what are you willing to give up to achieve it? And it might be a sacrifice of 6 months. It might be a sacrifice of a year. Whatever it takes to get that dream or that business off the ground, that's what you have to do. You might have to work Saturdays and Sundays. You might have to work. You might have to give it 3 hours, after you get off work, but it's how bad you want it. And it's still, you can allot that time. Say, hey, I get off at 5 o'clock. From 6 to 7, I'm gonna be winding down to get home. But starting 9 o'clock every night, I'm from 9 to midnight. I'm knocking out these goals. I'm putting this time towards this business, and I'm doing that every single day. When I'm working with authors, it's the same thing. Like, hey, give me an hour a day.
Mm.
I don't care. Whenever the hour is, give me an hour every single day of writing. And I guarantee you in 30 days, if you put 30 hours in of writing, you're gonna hit your goals, right? We say, okay, we want 1,000 words a day. Well, how do we get to 1,000 words? Is that in an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is? Like, you have to set tangible goals for yourself, and that's everyday goals to able to get to the main goals or see the vision come to life.
Man, you really just touched on something that I don't want anyone to kind of overlook in what you said. So, in our perfect world, in our mind, in the perfect world, we would spend 8 hours, 5 hours per day working on this thing or working on that goal. But for many of us, we just don't have that type of time. And so we set our bar so high that we fail on the execution piece of it. So what you just said was so important, that you work on it at least for an hour. But in our mind, a lot of times I think people tell themselves that, well, that hour is not good enough. So then nothing happens. And so can you just talk to that a little bit more about at least spending an hour, 30 minutes every day, or at least having that structured time where you dedicated time, at least hourly, weekly, and then committing to that.
So what I talk about in the book is start mapping out, right? So start small, right? Start mapping out the day. If you can map out a day, then you can map out 2 days, right? But in mapping out a day, it really takes the time and saying, okay, what do I have going on? What's on my calendar? What does my boyfriend, what does my husband, what does my wife have going on? What does my children have going on, right? And it's really putting everything out in front of you, right? And we talk about doing the what's on your plate exercise, right? Everything that's on your plate, right? Seeing what you have going on every single day, right? And I say, I map out my day. And then I say, okay, I got to work 8 hours. I want to exercise. I want to work out. I need an hour to work out or 2 hours to work out. Travel time, right? Social media time, computer time, family time, working on my goals, right? So then once you have all these things out on the table, then it's plug and play, right? It's plug and play. Then now I mapped out a day. Now, okay, let's try 2 days. 2 days can then turn into a week, right? So if you can map out your weeks, and I'm not saying that there's not going to be any curveballs, but you're not being blindsided by anything, right? And you have a grasp on what you're doing, and you can create a structure in your life that's going to allow you to achieve your goals, right? Um, and once and this I would say, has worked for us because we have so many different things going on, that if you don't map out this time, if you don't look and see what's on your plate every Sunday, kind of mapping out the week, then you're going into the weeks blind, and you're not being able to get things accomplished. And then even doing that, it allows you to see how much time you waste,
Mhm.
right? Go on your phone with the Instagram, and they'll tell you how long you've been on the app, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, how long you've been on there, right? So it's really, you can see how much time you're wasting, right? So if you somebody that get up at 8 o'clock every day, right? Say you get up at 8 o'clock and I get up at 5 o'clock. right? Well, I got 3 extra hours in my day that I'm able to get things accomplished that you're not being able to get accomplished. But you're the same person that's saying, I want to knock these goals out of park. I want to achieve this. I want to build this, but you sleeping in, or you going to bed late, or you watching a whole lot of TV, bro. So I think that's very important. And I really a strong believer of mapping out your days and prioritizing your days.
Hmm. So we're going to switch it up, the conversation up just a little bit.
Mhm.
So oftentimes I think that real estate agents forget that they are business owners in a sense. And so and don't really understand that branding piece of it, and building as if it's you started a new business. And so do you have any advice to help people kind of transition that mindset of s- treating it like you just started a new business?
So the question I would ask is why don't you? So the question I would ask first is, why would someone think that they're not starting a business?
I think that for me, from what I can see, is where the confusion lies. As a real estate agent, they come in as a independent contractor. But in order to be a real estate agent, you have to work under a real estate brokerage. So here we are, Brick House Realty agent comes in as an independent contractor. So I think where they get confused is the brokerage, that's the business, right? And I'm just working there. And so they forget that they still have to, it's more like a franchise business, right? So if there is a franchise there, you would still market your own franchise. So then they miss that connection there and they fail to market themselves.
So, the reason I just wanted you to say that so we can get the clarity, right? So, you in that situation, right? So, if you think about, say, a parent company, right? And your parent company, say for example, is Apple, right? And then you have all these sub brands under Apple, right? You have the iPhone, you have the iPad, you have the iMac, right? You have Apple TV, right? So you have all these different brands up under this main brand. And if you notice, each individual thing has its own identity, right? The iPad is not the iPhone. The iMac is not the iPad, right? The iMac isn't the iPhone. Apple now they work together, but they're all each individual brands. They all each individually have their own different advertisements. They advertise them different ways. Their end user is a different person, right? So it is important for them to establish their identities, so that because they need all these different things to work, right? Now, if the iPhone isn't doing well, then they may get rid of the project. That doesn't mean that the company goes away, right? So it's important, who's ever working in the iPhone, that they need to be working hard to make sure that that their customer is satisfied with the product, right? So with the broker is, yes, working and building the company and thinking about the company, right? But these individual agents, it is important for you to work on your business, work on your brand, because what happens is you don't want to be the product, or you don't want to be the agent that they get rid of because they're not producing, right? So these agents aren't in, we're not there, nobody's in the business of just carrying dead weight, right? So it is important for you because, one, your commission, right? I'm pretty sure that you're getting a commission based off these sales. So if you're not branding yourself, if you're not trying to separate yourself apart from other agents, if you're not trying to build that identity, if you're not trying to show why you're valuable as an agent, because it's a million agents, right? So what separates you from anybody else, right? What separates the iPhone from the Samsung or the Google phone or these phone, right? So there, it's a competitive market. So you have to understand that I'm trying to get into a crowded room and I'm trying to stand out. I'm trying to make the most noise in a crowded room. So that's why it's important for you to understand that you are an individual brand, that you are a business, and you have to conduct yourself as such. And it's based off of how much you put into it. So you can come to work every single day and get some leads or however the process works, and and do that, right? Or you can get some photo shoots done, and you can get your page set up, and you can get your own business card, and you can, you're gonna get out of it with you put into it. And that's with any single thing, right? If I own a McDonald's, right, I can have I mean, it's the same in
Yeah.
it's the same in every single industry. If you look at sports, right, yes, they work. LeBron James works for the Lakers, he works for the NBA, but he still has his own individual brand. He still has, because his money isn't predicated off of what these other people do or what the Lakers organization does. His money is predicated on what he does, what he brings to the table, how good he is. That's where his money is. So as an agent, your money is based off of how good you are, what separates you, how much business you're bringing in. That's what your money is based off on. So, and the reason why it's important to build that individual brand is because that's going to help your bottom line.
Absolutely. Well said, well said. So if an agent puts together a marketing plan, right? So 2021's knocking on the door, everyone's building their plans for the new year. Um, how long, so they start January 1st, they start building out this new marketing plan. Is 30 days long enough for them to stick to that plan if they're not seeing any results?
Um, so in my teaching, right, there's a difference between branding and marketing. So those are two different things. Oftentimes the word gets interchanged, or sometimes the word is that you're using those two words and they don't mean the same thing, right? So the biggest thing for me, I'm saying, is brand before marketing. So before you can go out and start marketing, so on and so forth, you need to be establishing your brand, and that's important, right? Um, and the reason why that's important is because um, the marketing gets the people in the door, right? But the branding keeps them in the door, right? The branding is what's going to get them to refer their friend and refer their auntie, right? So that's important, right? So you can market, right? So you can put an ad on Facebook tomorrow and get a whole bunch of leads and get all these people calling you, right? But if that brand isn't intact, then you're not going to keep those folks and you're not going to convert those folks, right? So the brand piece of it is the experience, right? What is the experience? What experience is happening once they pick up the phone, once they reach you, once they have a consultation with you, once they walk through a home with you, what's the follow-up, all the way from the time you guys speak to the time you close the deal. That's the brand. The marketing, you can go on and click a digital ad tomorrow, right? But and get a whole bunch of leads. But what are you going to do with them once they call you, once you get them in the door? And that's the brand aspect of it. So I think that if you want to talk about marketing plans or strategies, I think that there needs to be there needs to be a strategy for the year. There needs to be a strategy for 6 months. There needs to be a strategy for 90 days. There needs to be a 30-day strategy.
Hmm.
So you can't just look at it like, okay, I'm going to do this for 30 days. It didn't work. Okay, I'm done with it. Because everything from a marketing standpoint is touch points, right? So oftentimes the biggest fail in a marketing strategy is we're not leading people anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm advertising on Facebook or I'm advertising on Instagram, but say I don't have a listing, right? I'm just trying to build my followers, right? Or I'm just trying to get people to know me, but what is the end, right? Are you capturing their information? Are you getting their phone number at the end? Are you capturing their email? What is it that you're leading them to? Where are you driving them to? That's the whole point of marketing. You're supposed to be driving them to somewhere. And if you're not driving them to anywhere, then your campaign is not going to be effective.
Okay. Would you say social media is important for real estate agents?
For sure.
Do you think
For
it's
any bit for any business owner.
okay?
And
And
the reason being it's the times that we live in. So you have to make the adjustments. So 40 years ago, the newspaper was relevant. It's not relevant anymore.
mhm,
So you have to make your adjustment. I'm pretty sure a lot of real estate agents used to list properties in the newspaper,
mhm,
right? That though that's gone away, right? So most people we're on our phones. So digital having a digital presence is 100% key. Um, you just think about this right here. This is, I mean, if you can say this is a form of social media, it's a form of social communication, right? 15 years ago, I don't know how long you've been a bit, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have been doing this. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't have been able to do this, right? So you have to be able to adjust with the times.
what about the people that are what about the people, sorry, that are afraid to they don't like people to hear their voice or show themselves on social media?
So it so some things some things you have to you just have to get rid of, right? It is what it is, right? Um, so you if you want to get into something, right? So this is why in both of my books I talk about understanding the industry or what it is that you're trying to do, right? So and I'll give a personal example of I wanted to be an author, right? So me and my wife didn't really talk about what that looks like, right? So on one hand, you can put out a book and nobody buys it, right? So you don't really have to, okay, you might consider that a failure, but nobody buys it. So so we always prepare ourselves for the failure, right? But we never prepare ourselves for what the success looks like, right? And so if I put out a book and then okay, now I get a call and say, we want you to do an 11 city book tour, right? So then what does that look like? Well, that looks like, okay, well, you have to leave your family. Now you have to make certain arrangements. You're going to be on the road, so on and so forth, right? You're going to make some money, right? So then we look at, okay, well, I didn't prepare for this, right? So I'm not looking at the industry as a whole, right? So if I'm saying, okay, well, I want to be a real estate agent, and then you say, well, I don't really like talking to people, and I don't really like dealing with folks, and I don't really want people to see my face, and you don't want to be a real estate agent. You know what I'm saying? You might want to be a real estate agent because, so that's why you have to understand your whys, right? You might want to be a real estate agent because I see Andrea and she making money, right? And her husband, they building houses and they doing this, that, and the third, right? Also, she making a good living, right? But you don't want to do what Andrea doing, because Andrea not showing you what her and her husband going through, and what dealing with contractors and dealing with this and dealing with the long hours that you might not see all of that, right? So then that's why those candid conversations. Okay, why you want to do this? Okay, why do you want to be an agent? Why do you really want to get into this? And if it's I just need to make some extra money. Well, there's other ways that you can make some extra money, because like you said, this is you building a business, right? So you're building a business. So there's a lot that comes into that, and everybody's not willing, or everybody doesn't want to be in that part of it, right? So that's like, I have people that say I want to write books. So it depends on what type of book you're trying to write, because I don't want to do speaking engagements. Well, you don't need to write no self-help books, right? Don't write a self-help book. Don't write a book about yourself where people are going to ask questions, right? You might have to write novels, right? Go the Harry Potter route, or the 50 Shades of Grey, those right. You don't want to be this type of author, right? You don't want to do this, because this is what it's going to entail.
You gave some good points on there, and people definitely have to look at the total picture, what comes along with being a real estate agent, because it is early days and late nights a lot of times while we're trying to work with our clients. I'm gonna shift this just a little bit, and this conversation might get a little deep right here. This next question that I have is not just dealing with real estate, but again, it's just being an entrepreneur. As a real estate agent, I think in this industry, we have a really hard time with client loyalty. That loyalty from our family, our friends. And what I mean by that is getting people to trust us in this business. So we can have a family member just use a different real estate agent for whatever reason. We could have had the conversation with them, told them this is what we're doing, and they still don't use us. You can also deal with the situation of an agent can be licensed for 10 years in this business and held up to another agent that has been in the business for 1 year, and a potential buyer or seller will come along and we'll go with the person that has the least experience versus the person that had the 10-year experience. So it's hard. This piece of it for real estate agents, I think, happens a lot of times in the business, that loyalty. And even my own self, right? I've lost friends, been mad at family members. I want to say lost family, but but where they don't understand how that plays a part, or how they, just kind of keep the business going. And why do you think that is? And do you have any suggestions on what we can do as agents to better show our value to those family members and friends?
So so you're not alone. So this is not something that's just faced in the real estate world, right? I would say that this is something that a lot of small business owners face. So what I will say is, based on my experience, your friends and your family is not your client. They're not your client. Stop asking them to be your client. Stop expecting them to be your client, right? If they become your client, great. But if they don't worry about it. So the problem is, we're expecting our friends and family to support us. That's what we're expecting, right? So it's hope for the best, expect the worst. So hopefully, yeah, you might want to, do business with me, but I don't expect you to, right? And that's a hard pill to swallow, but that's what it is. Your client, your friend, your family, they're not your client. And you have to be okay with that. So it's not really no deep suggestion, right? They're not your client. And I'll say this, right? The reason why they're not your client is because so for example, I'm gonna give you all stuff from me, right? So in the I released my first book in 2016, right? I toured all over the country for the last 4 years. And I've done bigger book signings outside of Cleveland, Ohio than I've done in Cleveland, Ohio. Right? And the thing is because people, they know you for what you do, right? So Andre, you're my sister, right? Or you're my cousin. I don't look at you as a real estate agent, right? I just want you to be my sister. Donovan, I just want you to be my uncle or my nephew, right? And the thing is, so if I have a family, my first book is about entrepreneurship. If I have a family and nobody in my family's entrepreneurs, right? But my expectation is for everybody in my family to buy my book. So yeah, you can buy my book because you my family, but at the end of the day, I didn't write it. It's not for you. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, I understand it from an agent standpoint. Is I can understand it from a, well, why not refer me? Or you going to eventually buy a house, or you going to eventually do this, but I may not want to, I may not want you in my business. I may not want you to know how much money I make. I don't want you going around, you know what I'm saying? Buying a house is very, very personal. Right? You have to give somebody all your information. You got to invite them inside your life. It's a lot of stuff that that agent or that person knows about you. So maybe it could be, okay, well, I'm gonna deal with this person. I'm not gonna see this person after we finish this, but cousin, I'm gonna see you all the time. I don't want you at the Christmas dinner or at the New Year's party telling people, oh, I had, they had to go get a loan. They had to go borrow it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of different things that I think comes in a factor in that. But just in general, I think that we have to understand that our friends and our family, they're not our client. And at the end of the day, we're building a business. We're building a business and understanding, okay, who's our client market, right? Who's our target market? And if your family doesn't fall in that target market, then we can't get mad if we don't do business with them. I used to be like that too. Damn, man, why you ain't buy my book? What I'm saying? Why you ain't buy my book? Man, I'm gonna get it, cuz, or I'm gonna get it. They'll never buy it because it ain't for them. It's not for them.
Well, I'm telling you now, I'm cutting you off. You, my family member, you don't do business with me, you are done.
Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Done.
You know what I'm
So,
saying?
but to that point though, what do you think about what can that person do? I think it does say something that it should give some encouragement if you're a newer agent in the business to know that you can come into this business and people will, even though you're a new agent, people are still going to do business with you because they want to do business with people that they like. So that's like the biggest thing. So even as a new agent, you can take off in this business. But there is something to be said with that experienced agent standing next to the least experienced agent and someone going with that least experienced agent for the biggest transaction, that they're going to make. So what can they do? Why do you think that this happens? Is it the way that experienced agent is positioning themselves?
Okay, so I'm glad. Okay, so this is a very good question. So it goes back to what you asked me earlier, say, for example, about social media. So this is what you see in the age of social media with inexperienced people versus experienced people, right? So a younger person has grown up using social media. So that's it's not very hard for them to transition social media into a new endeavor, right? So somebody that's been on social media that has a great following or so on and so forth, right? And then they're trying to transition over into a business. Well, they have some type of popularity, or they have people following them, or they're known for this, right? Or they're very, very visible. Then you might have somebody that is experienced, but now has to shift their business into social media, and it might be a struggle for them. So then that's why sometimes you see people who will go to a new person because how visible they are, right? You see this in the hair industry where you have a stylist that's been doing hair, or somebody doing hair for a very long time, and then you have a new up and coming stylist. Well, it's the same thing. It goes hand in hand in so many different areas, so many different businesses, and that's why you see that, right? And I think that what happens is I think the experience, I think that that younger person, it could be a huge transaction, and 9 times out of 10, they may not execute it properly because they don't have the experience, right? So you know, and I think that that new person, they have to understand that you have to seek guidance and seek counsel from somebody older, right? You see it, you see it in industries like you see it in industries like people that become like social media comedians, right? They're very funny on social media, but then when you get them on a stage, they crumble. They can't do anything, right? You know what I'm saying? So so if you're an older guy, you're like, man, why you booking this young comedian, right? Because he's popular, but he can't deliver. So then they're going to have to call on, you know, the experienced person, right? So I just think that that experienced agent, they can't get discouraged, but they have to recognize that this is how business is being done and this is what's happening. And you have to not get discouraged, but you have to start, you know, challenging yourself to make yourself more visible, make yourself, you know what I'm saying? Because the things that you might have did before, where it's knocking on people's doors or sending those signs out in people's yards, or, you know, handing your business cards out. I mean, you get into the day now, people don't even print business cards no more. You know, so you have to shift, I would say you have to shift your business into keeping and staying up to date with what's going on. You know, because it's not going to go away. People are always going to have to buy houses, but how they seek the agent is different. And I think that's important. The way that people seek their agent and look for their agents is much different now than what they did before. So if you're an experienced agent, you have to make that shift. You have to make that transition to the platforms that your consumer is now on.
Well, I definitely been to a comedy show and I was like, man, he was much funnier on that movie. I remember going to see Charlie Murphy and that happened. And they were like throwing tomatoes like literally at him on the stage. So that's funny that you said that. Um, so as an outsider kind of looking in at this real estate industry, what do you think, what could an agent do to either stand out or set themselves apart in this business? And I would say, I always talk about social media, especially for real estate agents. It's very important. And it's the cheapest form of marketing that you can do. In many cases, free. So, and it may not always be free for us. So we definitely have to take advantage while it is. But as an outsider looking in, sometimes it's easier on the outside of an industry to say, man, I don't know why real estate agents don't do this. Is there something that you can think of or a suggestion for real estate agents?
I think that agents, so let me go back, right? So um, you spoke about agents that are maybe doing this part-time or doing this on the side, right? So that's a thing too. Like I've spoken to people, and a lot of times closing a house, right, is a very can be a very strenuous process, right? I remember I did I had to do a 203K loan, and that was like kind of one of the hardest things had to do, right? And my agent had to be on the spot available.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have agents that are doing something part time, you're not readily available when someone needs you, especially in the closing process, right? Because you're working on your job, so on and so forth, right? So you have to keep that in mind of why some people may pick one agent over the other is because that agent that does this full time and takes it serious and put all their chips on the table to go after this, they're going to get different clientele, they're going to get different business um, than that person that's doing it part-time, right? So then that's that. My suggestion I would say is pick a lane, right? And I think that you have to understand that you can't be all things to all people, right? So that's the biggest thing with branding, right? You can't be all things to all people. So you can't be trying to sell $20,000 homes and then $1 million homes, right? Two different clienteles, two different messagings, two different experiences, two different marketing campaigns, right? Those are two different clients. Investors is a different client than homeowners, right? So I feel like foreclosures is different from new construction, right? So you have all these different ways that your consumer can buy properties. I think that you have to pick a lane and then dominate that lane. My first home, I purchased foreclosure, right? And the agent that I had, that's all he did. So he knew about the foreclosures, he had the list, right? You know what I'm saying? He knew the processes, he knew everything. That was his lane. He only focused on foreclosure homes. So I think that from an agent standpoint, I think that you should figure out a lane and then try to dominate that lane versus trying to be spread out or spread thin and trying to just sell any and everything. That's just my suggestion. I think that you should find a lane and then focus on that lane and perfect that lane, and then you can then say branch off versus trying to be all over the place.
Yeah. So I want to go back to your books. You have
Mhm.
two books. And so I guess I want to know, how can we purchase them? And what can they expect to learn? Or should they read one of them before the other one?
So I actually have them right here, but so my first book was the brand playbook, and the ultimate game plan for building your business. And then my second book is clock management. So to answer your first question, um, if I would look at them, I would say part one and part two. The brand playbook is a entrepreneurship's guide to building a business. So we put together 10 actionable steps that can help you build a business from the ground up. If you are somebody that, a little seasoned and you were, may had a business for a very long time, there's some things in the book that speak to business in today's social media, branding, things of that nature that can help you as well. And then clock management is more so part two. You've built the business. So now let me show you how to manage and balance the business with whatever else you have going on in your life. So that's the part one and part two, if you look at it from that standpoint. They're on Amazon. You can go on Amazon and search both books, or they're on my website, which is marketingismysport.com. And you can find both books there, or you can find them both books on Amazon, as well as from a print standpoint or electronically. So some people like ebooks, so they're on there. I always recommend people to buy the physical copy, because they're workbooks. So both of them are workbooks. You can write right in the book. So from the tablet, you can't really do that. So that's why I recommend people to buy the physical copy.
Okay. So I think you offer coaching services, but I may not be clear. Do you offer coaching services for marketing or just for someone that wants to write a book?
No, so I do marketing, branding, and author coaching. So yeah, I do marketing and branding coaching. Um, I only really got into helping authors because I've done it multiple times, and a lot of people will call and ask me for questions about the process. So I help with that, or we publish books as well too.
Okay. Do you think that it is something that real estate agents should think more about, writing a book or an ebook or anything like that?
I think that giving value is always, um, I think giving value is always important. I think that that is a way that I've seen real estate agents or people in the field start to separate themselves from the pack because they're going into a teaching standpoint and educating. And I think that that is something that can be a part of the campaign, right? And you can release an ebook not necessarily from a profit standpoint, but another way to get your name embedded in somebody's mind. I might not be trying to buy a house today, but I can remember, hey, I downloaded your ebook, or I seen this advertisement, I downloaded your book, I read it. So then when I'm ready, I want to reach out to you because I felt like you gave me a lot of good nuggets, or you gave me great value, and you helped me in my process. So I think that there's always touch points and always things that you can do to always, get to that end user. And then, I mean, now, you know, I think we live in a time now where people take a little bit of information and want to become teachers, but you just have to make sure that you're giving great value in whatever it is that you're doing, and understanding, like I said, your lane. Like you might want to be, you might just want to teach. You might not want to be selling homes or going through the houses from day to day standpoint. And I think that that's a thing too, that the experienced agent should look into: how do I educate the inexperienced agent,
Mm.
right? So instead of being mad that they're getting business, right? You know what I'm saying? Step in and say, hey, I see that you're getting, I see that you're getting the business, but so you won't drop the ball, or you may not have been through certain situations. Let me help you out. Let me give you this course. Let me give you this mentorship. Let me give you this ebook, whatever it is, to help you navigate some of the pitfalls that might come into with you being new, but you're getting a lot of attention.
So just one comment I just kind of want to make on that is before we get ready to wrap up here, but I think it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning about real estate agents looking at themselves as like a business owner. And I wish I would have learned that earlier on in the business to, things are a lot easier to do these days. It's a lot easier to write an ebook. It's a lot easier to just write a book and do these things and become more visible. So times have definitely changed. But now that we recognize that, putting in place things like those ebooks, and just to give an example to you agents how that works, how many phone calls have you gotten from like a lead, a potential buyer or potential seller, who that buyer or seller is not ready to transact today? They're not ready until 3, 6, maybe a year later. Well, how do you stay in contact with them? If you're constantly able to reach out and give them something, hey, check out this ebook that I wrote, check out this blog, this daily blog that I'm doing. When you're able to give them something of value, when they're ready to do that transaction, they're going to think of you first because you keep adding value to them each time. So having that book, if you work with first time home buyers and you had a book that you wrote for first time home buyers, whether it's free or they have to pay for it, having something that you can just kind of put out there goes a long way. And I learned that much later, now that things have become much easier to do. But definitely, if you're in this business and you're not doing that, think of ways that you can kind of incorporate that in your business. And the templates is so easy with things like Canva and other services and Amazon that you can just jump right on there. In like a week, you can have like something totally built out. But you got to make the commitment. You got to get the clock management book to time block and everything like that. Sharita just kind of mentioned on here, she said it was great information. She thanked about the lunch and learns, and she said that you gave lots of gems that she could put into practice now. So she was thanking you for that. How can people contact you?
One thing that I wanted to say real quick is you have to identify who your who your audience is, who your target audience is. So, like you just said, if you're dealing with first time home buyers, right? Then everything that you talk about, every message that you put out, everything that you talk about, everything that you do should be about first time home buying. And that's how you separate yourself, and that's how you build the brand,
Mhm.
right? Because the experience is about, okay, this is the experience. He's going to educate me, he's going to take care of me because I'm a first time home buyer. And everything that he does or everything that they talk about is first time home buying, ebooks, first time home buying, coaching, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. And then the biggest thing is emails. You want to capture people's emails because that's the way that you talk to them, right? Email marketing, email communication, talking about my daily blog, talking about my email. That's how you communicate. That's how you can blast that out by one click, right? So it's a digital world, and you have to be able to adapt and adjust to how to navigate in this digital world, right? I'm not saying that the traditional things of putting the signs out and the door hangers and all of that, those word of mouth, those things aren't going away. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to master both of them. Um, I'm on every social media. My website is www.marketingismysport.com, and I am on Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook at I am Donovan Boyd.
Please, please, please show Donovan some love. Go purchase his book, 2021, Knocking on the Door.
For sure.
2020 showed us a lot. I had long list of plans at the beginning of the year, and I had to do this and start over, right? As soon as we hit March, I had events planned, scrapped, everything scrapped, and had to figure out how to shift and pivot. We heard those terms a lot.
For
And
sure.
honestly, we probably will see more of that going into 2021, especially as real estate agents. We are dealing with low inventory right now. So with low inventory, keeping our buyers engaged, going out, finding new housing inventory. So you have to think of new ways. You have to have a plan in place. You have to time block your time to consistently prospect for business. So it's so important. Market yourselves. And if you don't know how to market yourselves, there's so much information that's out there. I'm sure Donovan, you can reach out to Donovan. He'll help you build that plan. So thank you for joining us today. I definitely
Thank you for
appreciate
having me.
it. So you guys, I did put his website in the chat as well. I will have the replay if you guys want to catch that, and we will see you next time.
All right. Thank you.